As you all know, I love doing these monthly tier lists for all of the movies that I see in that specific month. Well, now, after you guys told me you wanted it, we are doing one for all of the television shows I saw in this month. Today, we are talking 9 TV shows. I'm going to rank them. Let's do it. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. I will be putting time codes in the description, so if you want to skip around, you can absolutely do that. But today we are talking all of the television shows that I watched in their entirety in the month of February. Now, there are plenty of shows that you all have been telling me to watch that I haven't gotten to. A show like Severance, a show like 1883. I'm also not going to include Euphoria because I have yet to see the finale, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the March tier list. But today, we're going to talk about everything I saw, whether they're good or not. Of course, if you're here, this being a new series for me, dropping that thumbs up would be the best way to tell me you want more. And please, what did I miss? Leave that in the comments down below. So I'm going to try to use this opportunity to recommend shows, tell you where you're going to fall if you enjoy that type of TV show. And Murderville is the first one that we are talking about. Will Arnett. Now, if you are the type of person that enjoys improv in your television show or movie, or you like the fact that they're kind of going off script with this kind of comedy, only 30-minute episodes, then I think you're going to like Murderville. This is a very SNL-like TV show, but there is a plot, there is a script for everyone except for the guest. When the guest comes on, they have no clue what's going to happen, and it's up to Will Arnett to make them laugh, to make us laugh, and that's what I think they were able to accomplish with Murderville. Now, it's not the perfectly structured television show, but it is one that had me cracking up, especially when they themselves would crack up. So, again, you just have to know what you're in for with Murderville, but if you can appreciate that type of humor, not everyone can, that's absolutely okay, I think you're going to enjoy it. The guest hosts include someone like Conan O'Brien, someone like Kumail Nanjiani, and every episode is a bit up and down. I didn't really dislike any of the episodes, but there were definitely some episodes that were funnier than others. Ken Jeong's was hilarious. Conan O'Brien's was hilarious. So I thoroughly enjoyed Murderville, and the more I thought about it, the more I just thought this is such an interesting idea, and why not take it a step further? We're going to put Murderville on the good tier. I really did enjoy this show, and I would say higher good tier. Almost put it on the great. Next up, Raising Dion Season 2. Obviously, if you didn't see Season 1, you're not going to care as much about this one, but this is a show that I was curious about, and it's returning after such a long gap between 1 and 2. Was it going to resonate with people? Now, first off, I want to apologize because YouTube turned off my comments in that video. I tried to get them back on. Couldn't do it. Don't know why. I think it has something to do with Dion being the focus of the show, and YouTube has that rule for kids. So, unfortunately, people didn't like that, and unfortunately, I didn't get a lot of comments on the opinions of the fans, but this is a series that really sets up its characters nicely, and it gave us a semi-interesting premise for Season 2. Dion is kind of coming into his own. He's slowly getting older, and because of that, he's understanding more what he has to do. We start out in Season 2, he's solving these crimes like not even street-level crimes like, oh, we have to close people's trash cans because they're open, and he has his very sweet and so cute friends helping him along the way. But there is a villainous presence that is introduced, and it creates an interesting dynamic. Now, they are young, therefore the audience of the show is definitely a bit younger, and I don't think Season 2 was perfectly structured. There are definitely some narrative issues. There are lulls in the season, and there were episodes that didn't quite work as well for me because they're not exploring the characters on the level that they should have. Overall, though, I think this is a sweet show, and I think Season 2 maybe even improved on Season 1. I thought Season 1 was okay. Season 2, while better, I believe is okay as well. And if you like this kind of superhero show for the younger crowd, you will enjoy Raising Dion. Anna Delvey, the German heiress who steals the hearts of all of the people in the know in New York. Julia Garner plays our title character here, but she's not the only one that we're focusing on. We're focused on a journalist who is uncovering the story of Anna, and then Anna herself. Now, if you look at the accent of Julia Garner in this show, it's caused a lot of controversies, like, is she doing it? But she's technically playing someone who is doing an accent of someone with an accent. So it gets a little complicated there. At first, caught me off guard, threw me off, but then I did a bit of research and understood that it was better than I originally thought, and her performance in the show is really good. No matter what people say, I think you can always take away Julia Garner is crushing this role after every single episode. Now, I don't know if it should have focused as hard on our journalist character as it did. The idea of telling this story through the lens of someone else is interesting, but you also get a lot of time with Anna, kind of understanding who she is. And even though you don't really get an idea as to who she is at the beginning, it is slowly uncovering that. I actually found this series to be, I think, a bit more interesting than most. There is a lot to her story, and maybe it's told in a bit of a sloppy way, and I understand that, right? The storytelling wasn't perfect, and I found more narrative flaws than maybe I wanted to, and maybe the journalist portion of things is not as compelling as Anna's story. But at the end of the day, I did enjoy the show as a whole, and her performance, whatever you want to say about the accent, it's electric. So I actually really like this show. I'm going to put Inventing Anna on the good tier, but just know that it's not a series for everyone. And if you don't like a story telling a bunch of things at once, you may not love this, but it is based on a true article. Not really a true story, sort of. Sebastian Stan, Lily James, Seth Rogen. That's not good. It's my Seth Rogen laugh. Listen, Pam and Tommy kind of blew me away because I didn't really know what to expect from this show. I watched it, obviously prior to any reactions because I was under embargo, and I'm thinking to myself, is this significantly better than I thought it was going to be? And not because the story of Pamela Anderson and of course, Tommy didn't resonate with me. It's just, can they pull this off? Can Sebastian Stan capture the essence of this character? And I think he did, right? Doesn't look as much like him, but man, oh man, this is one of his best performances yet. Lily James embodies who this character is supposed to be. And I love a bit later on in the series, you really get a look into how all of this is making her feel, right? She's human too, and that's what a lot of people I don't think understood. Now, I understand there is a bit of controversy, like did they give the go-ahead for this show? I've heard a little bit about Pamela Anderson maybe not loving certain things they tackled in the series, and I'll be frank with you, I haven't looked into it as much as I should have, so me judging the series is not me kind of looking down on that. It's more so just saying I enjoyed it for what it was. It was really entertaining. Seth Rogen was actually excellent in the series, and you can tell he produced it because I think it was episode 3 when they show everything, and I mean everything. Never expected it to get like it did on Hulu, right? We expect something like that on HBO Max, but the nudity, the sexual content in that episode alone. But the series, it doesn't necessarily go away from that, but once it establishes they're together, here's who they are, it becomes more of a, okay, how do we take this guy down who released this sex tape everywhere? It also handles the porn industry in a way that I didn't expect. It gives us an insight into that. Nick Offerman is also really good in this show. I enjoyed the ride. I thought it was interesting. I learned things. Some things I didn't necessarily want to learn, but I learned things, and I thought the performances were electric. That's why I'm going to put Pam and Tommy on the great tier. I think it's a great show. Space Force Season 2. It is the most stacked cast, maybe on this list, maybe of the year so far. Steve Carell, Ben Schwartz, Malkovich. I mean, you name them, they're probably in this show. And I was really looking forward to Season 1. I was a bit kind of just, it's all right with Season 1. And even though Season 2 handles everything a bit differently, right? There's no overarching plot. They're not going towards one big thing. Well, they technically are with the first episode. But it's more so, honestly, it's more so laid out like The Office, right? From the creators of The Office. It is, every episode is handling a couple of different storylines, and it's trying to make you laugh. And I do think the humor in Season 2 is significantly better than Season 1. I was not laughing that much in Season 1, to be honest with you. But I do think the story was interesting enough. In this season, the story isn't as interesting. So in that way, I think they could have worked on it a lot there. But I was laughing more. And I loved the relationship between Naird and his daughter. Steve Carell's chemistry with her is just, it truly is great. And it made this show a bit better than maybe it should have been. I'm still waiting on Space Force to blow me away. And I'm not sure if it's going to get a Season 3. But as of now, I'm going to say Season 2 is on the okay tier. It's just crazy. With Steve Carell and the creators of The Office, I expected a bit more. Vikings Valhalla.
Hinga-dinga-durgan.
with Leif Erikson. And our main trio in this series is very interesting. In the first couple of episodes, you get some backstory on really all three of them. But when they come together and they're dealing with things 100 years later past the first Viking series, that's when it starts to get really interesting. The action scenes are great. The war scenes are epic. And the way this show is put together, the budget will get better with subsequent seasons. But as of now, I think it looks pretty good, right? And the way that everything's handled. This show was really entertaining for me, and I found so much out of it that I enjoyed. Now, you go to my comment section, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of comments dealing with the wokeness of Vikings Valhalla, but none of those comments really give any insight as to the quality of the show. I'm also seeing a bit of a review bomb on IMDb because of those comments, and they all kind of hit at once, right? Everything was fine and dandy until 1 hour a couple of days ago, and then everything just kind of went crazy in my comment section. I'm like, did they plan this? Was this a planned attack? Same thing happened with the Lord of the Rings trailer. Same thing happened. I mean, it happens all the time, and I kind of turn off notifications. I'm just like, well, let's go, honey. I'm hungry. Because they start getting mad at me, and I'm like, dude, I've watched the show to critique the show. Like, that's not my focus. So I'm going to talk about the show. I'm not going to talk about the political agenda behind it. I'm going to talk about the show. That's what we talk about on the show. The show. We don't talk about anything else. So how is the show? You know, I'm getting all these comments. I'm replying to them like, this tells me nothing about the quality. How is the film? Can we talk about the filmmaking for 1 second? And, you know, people are saying it's not historically accurate. It's a show that feels more like a fantasy to me anyway. The first Vikings, I'm sure there are historical inaccuracies, because how do you make that many episodes and make them all like, oh, this actually happened. This line of dialogue. This line of dialogue happened. Yeah, sure it did. Whether you love it or hate it for whatever particular reason, my job is to not turn the comments off and to delete comments. I leave everything up because I think people are allowed to have their opinions unless they're cursing and saying really bad things. I wanted to review the show for the show, and I found it to be really entertaining. I found it to be epic. The characters were interesting. There was a bit of a tonal imbalance. That's probably my main issue. Is certain episodes, it's almost like they kind of took a break from all of the action, and there's a lot of conversations that I guess help with the development, but they weren't as interesting. So I was kind of like, okay, can we move through this? Especially because the length of the episodes is so long. I just want to move on to the next thing. But once we did, it got more entertaining. So all in all, I didn't mean to go on a rant here. And again, I think everyone's allowed to have their opinions, but some of them are just, they're kind of rough. They're rough. Let's put this on the great tier, because I think it's a great show. Reacher. Jack Reacher. Not Tom Cruise. Not Thomas Cruisin'. It's the new guy. What's his name? Oh, yeah, Alan Ritchson. Dude, you are the ultimate Jack Reacher. This guy, he has the build, he has the size, but can he bring it with the performance? I think absolutely. I really enjoyed this show. Like, to a shocking degree, enjoyed this show. And there's so much to write home about. You establish in the first episode who this character is and why he does what he does. His mentality, his badassery. Trademark. No, not really. He's just an awesome, awesome character. So to get behind his motivations, once you're there, you understand, okay, he's going to wreak havoc wherever he goes. He can or cannot get out of any situation. He establishes a relationship with the police force in this very small town, but he's here for a very specific reason. What is that reason? It's up for us to find out. Thus comes action. Thus comes intense moments. Thus comes a revelation in the first few episodes that is heartbreaking, but it causes him to become even more angry. Reacher was a fascinating show, and I think there's so much. If you're looking for just an intense, great character to root for and some nice relationships, Reacher is your guy. I am putting this show on the great tier. It's on Amazon Prime. Please go check it out. Do you really want to taste it? I wanted to learn the dance. I tried to learn the Peacemaker dance. I started, I got 5 minutes in, I said, you know what, it's not worth the TikTok. It's not worth it. So I went and probably ate something. But the show itself, this show's great. No, it's not great. It's something else, but we'll get to that. I think there's so much to this that not only added on to the lore of the Suicide Squad, a movie in which I loved, and you guys know this, but it gave us so much for a character that is like a D-level character, or at least he was, right? no one really knew who Peacemaker was. Peacemaker wasn't even originally a full-on DC character. I think the rights reverted to DC, some sort of buyout or something that happened way back in the day. And then he became a DC character, but he's never really been utilized to his full potential. And now we know how much potential he has. And this goes to show, you know, there are so many great comic book characters. People say all the time, well, we've already done Captain America, we've done Iron Man, we've done Batman, Superman. What is there left to do? Well, you take someone like Peacemaker, and I give this to James Gunn. He took him, he made him more interesting. He gave him, first of all, someone great to play the character himself. I think, you know, John Cena, no one really knew he could give a performance like this. And throughout the show, especially the scene where he's playing the piano, he really crushed it with that performance. But he gave this character an edge that I never expected, a backstory that is absolutely brilliant, and lore that made him fascinating. And that's why I love this show. The way that it played out was unexpected. Of course, the big cameos in the final episode. If you guys want to see my full review, I paired it with my finale review, so it's all one video. But yeah, let's go ahead and put Peacemaker on the awesome tier because it is truly an awesome show. The Book of Boba Fett, the one that's kind of dividing Star Wars fans in a way because, and I kind of agree with the overarching opinion here. I agree that episodes, I think it was 5 and 6, the 2 episodes where Boba Fett was not really in it, those 2 episodes are amazing. And I hate to say that because the show is titled Book of Boba Fett, and he's relegated to a cameo in one of those episodes, and I don't even know if he's in the other episode. It's just barely, right? Unfortunately, the fact that those were the best 2 episodes, it almost clouds my opinion. Now, part of me wants to say, don't care, you know, love those 2 episodes, so therefore I'm going to look past the fact that it's a Boba Fett show. But then another part of me is like, Austin, it's a Boba Fett show, and Boba Fett wasn't in your favorite 2 episodes. Now, the finale was fun as well. I understand there are some complaints about the story, and people were talking about the cheesiness of the final episode, and I understand that, but Star Wars in itself has that cheese, embraces that cheese. I think the prequels have a ton of cheese, but I have fun with that. I think the original trilogy has a ton of cheese. I mean, the opening of A New Hope, when they get stuck in the trash compactor, there's a lot of cheesiness to that, but it's great. And that's kind of why I love Star Wars. So the cheese in the finale didn't bother me as much as it did others. And I really liked how everything culminated. The issue for me more so was the storyline of the finale, whether it be the inclusion of the biker gang or just the attack on this small town. That wasn't as important to me personally because of the way it was built up in the first 4 episodes. I was loving the flashbacks. I was loving the showcasing of Boba Fett and his past. That was great. But whenever we would come back to the future, I wouldn't be as interested. I was like, let's just go back and show his origin. And part of me wishes this series was more so of an origin than anything. And we got a lot of that, but it wasn't the entirety of the show. And then the episode with the biker gang, I'm just like, I don't know if I like these characters all that much. I don't know if I'm enjoying this maybe as much as I would have if it would have been a bunch of bounty hunters coming together, and that would have been great. Now, I do think there's a lot of good with this show, but there are also some things that pull it down. Me being a Star Wars fan, it's hard to look past just seeing Boba Fett get his own show, looking past the amazing episodes that didn't have Boba Fett in it. Therefore, I'm going to put this on the good tier. This is a very difficult one for me, but that's kind of where it is in my heart right now. And as always with these tier lists, we are going to rank these television shows. So at the bottom, I'm going to go Raising Dion Season 2, followed by Space Force Season 2. On the good tier, Inventing Anna is my least favorite of the 3. Book of Boba Fett is next because Murderville really did come close to being on the great tier. I can't wait for another season. On the great tier, let's go Vikings Valhalla at the bottom because there's just something about Reacher that spoke to me, and honestly, it could get better on rewatch. Pam and Tommy is right above that, a great show, but of course, at the top, one of the best shows I've seen in a while, and I'm hoping it stays there to remain in my top 10 at the end of the year. It is Peacemaker. What a great outing by DC, man. DC's been on a roll lately. The Suicide Squad, the Snyder Cut, and now this, man. Let's see where the Batman falls. You guys want to see where the Batman falls? Well, stay tuned to this channel because tomorrow at noon Eastern Time, I will have my review for this little number. But beyond that, thank you for joining me. Hey, this is new for me, right? My first one in the series. If you want to support it, the best way to do that is dropping your thumbs up down below. And please leave a comment. What was a show that I missed? I know there were plenty. And should I include Euphoria in the next month's tier list? All right, guys, you're the best. Thanks for watching. See you soon.